about what your state practice act says about those portions of procedure that can be legally delegated. Okay? But with that knowledge, you can now approach your schedule, and this is the X method of scheduling. So for every procedure we do, or our most common procedures, we want to know how much doctor time and how much assistant time is required for this procedure on average. Now, yes, there is some variance. Some patients take longer to numb. Some have smaller mouths. It's more difficult to get in there. Some have a very sensitive gag reflex. So there's going to be slight variance with some. Is that fair? Mm-hmm. Yes? But on average, you can find an average of how these appointments need to be scheduled, true or false? True. But we have to know, on average, how much assistant time and how much doctor time is really needed. So how much time does Dr. Garrett need on this crown prep? That is just him. What only he can do. And what portions of that crown prep can he delegate to a trained auxiliary person? A DA1, a DA2, expanded functions. Ideally, you want every clinical person trained in expanded functions. Because here's the thing, ladies, every time your doctor is doing something he doesn't legally have to do, it eats into what you could theoretically be compensated. So at Fortune, one of the things we believe in is that a team who's willing to align behind the doctor and help grow the practice, those efforts and those results should be rewarded. That they shouldn't be working just to build the doctor's wealth, but they could be investing their time to build their wealth as well. I believe everyone in this profession has the ability and the right to ultimately become financially free. How many of you would like financial freedom to be somewhere on the continuum of your life? How many of you would like to reach that point at some time in your life? Yeah. Absolutely. And financial freedom doesn't mean retirement. It means you have crossed over into a realm where you work because you choose to, not because you have to. That's what Jonathan was talking about. He wants to work because he chooses to, not because he has to, not because he has to pay the bills, or any of that stuff. It's working by choice. And having a team that's willing to drive that for you, I think you guys should share in that. And so at Fortune, we tend not to work with doctors who aren't willing to do that. We tend not to. Because again, if you're not willing to reward them, they're not going to support you very long. True or false, ladies? True. If they're just cracking the whip for you to work for them, and there's nothing in it for you, we don't tend to respond to that very well. Okay? So, get your auxiliary team trained in as many expanded functions so that it saves, you can delegate those things to her, and ladies, you can get him or her working a little bit smarter, leveraging his time a little bit better so that we all get to win. We all expand our skill, we expand our value. When you are able to put more value into an hour, you get to make more in an hour. What a concept. And I would write this in your notes. The universe does not respond to need. The world does not give us things because we need it or we want it. The world gives us things because we deserve it. Because we earned it. So if we want to make more per hour, whether you're a doctor or an auxiliary person, front desk, whatever, if you want to make more per hour, you've got to figure out a way to put more value into that hour. That's what Fortune is here to train you on. We'll train you on how to communicate elegantly so you get an increased return from the same amount of time. And by the way, would it surprise you that across the country, like I think, what would you do with $330 extra? What would you do with it? That was the bonus they cut their team members last month. And actually, I can't remember what it was the month before that, I can tell you that All of us have had teams that have bonus in excess of $1,000 and done it multiple times. But there are certain organizing and operating principles that allow that to happen. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, no, maybe?
Yes.
How many of you would like to earn an extra $500 a month?
Mm-hmm.
How many of you think, nah, I'm not in it for the money? We don't do it for the money. The money just makes the ride a little bit easier, right? Do what? Greases the wheels a little bit. So the bottom line is we need to find out for all of our most common procedures how much assistant time and how much doctor time or hygienist time is required. So if the doctor only has to be in the room for that crown prep for 30 minutes, even though the patient's here for an hour, he could actually see another procedure in the next room. True?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The challenge is where do we put it in the second room so that he is not expected to be in two places at once?
Yeah.
Because what happens when the doctor is scheduled to be in two rooms at the same time?
Waste of time.
You get behind.
You get a grouchy doctor.
Yes. You get behind, you get a grouchy doctor, and when baby ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. True?
True.
So we need to, and we recommend timing procedures in your practice for at least 30 days. 30 days gives us a good random sample. It allows us to assess, on average, how much assistant time and doctor time do we need for a crown? How much assistant and doctor time do we need for a two-service filling, for a root canal, for whatever? Okay? Then we build our X's accordingly. Now this X method is just how do we communicate to the front desk how this patient's appointment needs to be scheduled. Does that make sense? Because once it's diagnosed in the back and it's treatment planned in the back or if it's treatment planned up front, then it gets walked up to the front desk and they are the ones who had to decide where it goes. True?
Mm-hmm.
In most offices?
True.
So this is what pre-blocks look like. So after I've timed procedures for about 30 days, I'm going to go into my schedule and I am going to pre-block time, doctor time for major production. And I'm going to hold that time on the schedule for major production. And I'm going to let the fillings and the suture removals and the seat crowns, the deliveries, I'm going to let all that stuff trickle in around these yellow blocks. So here, and here, and right here, and right here. So there's all this time still available that those things can be done without impeding production.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? So we're going to go into our schedule and we're going to pre-block time. There it is. Okay. And here's how that schedule might look the day of. So Carol Brady's coming in for a crown prep. She's going to spend the first 20 minutes with the assistant. Then the doctor's going to come in and he's going to go ahead and prep that crown. And then his assistant is going to finish that last 20 minutes. Now, Joan of Arc is also coming in at 8 o'clock. So we've got Carol and Joan showing up at the same time. But Joan is having a crown seated, and that only requires 10 minutes of the doctor's time. So they can both theoretically come in at the same time, but at no time, when you see how these yellow blocks line up, what you should see is a pattern whereby the doctor is never required to be in more than one theater of operation at a time. Now, here's something else you may notice, a few distinctions I want to show you on your schedule and a way to better utilize your practice management software, whether you've got EagleSoft or whatever it is. So, one thing you're going to notice is, yes, the doctor's yellow blocks do not overlap. If you, somebody get out a calculator and add these figures up for me, if you will. So the doctor's goal we're trying to hit is 3156. Man, it's getting late. I think we need a dance break. Okay, so I'll make a promise to you guys. If I can stand up here in these awful shoes, Feet throbbing. If I keep my energy up, will you guys keep your energy up just so we can make it through this last hour? Can you do that for me?
Yeah.
Can we do that? Say yes.
Yes.
Awesome. So, notice here, if you add up that $650 for the crown, by the way, what is the average insurance reimbursement for a crown? No, I mean the fee schedule, I'm sorry. The average insurance fee schedule for a crown, whether it's Delta or MetLife, I know there's some variation. On average,
730, Delta, so 735.
so it could be anywhere from $455 on the low end up to, I've seen as high as $825, but it's rare. It's rare. But let's say it's $650. Is that pretty reasonable? $650? Okay. So go through and add that crown prep up, $650. Then he's doing another build up and crown over in room 2, and that's going to be $800. Then add $550. Add another $300 because he's got some composites coming in at 10, or 1010 rather. Then add the $1950 for the bridge prep on Thurston Howell. Now add those up. What did you come up with? Who was doing the adding? $42.50. Is that more or less than what we need? Now, so that's one thing I want you to notice. The other thing I want you to notice is what time is it when he has already met his goal? Lunchtime. It's lunchtime. It's lunchtime. See, that's what's possible when you know how to engineer time. When we're not filling holes, we are engineering time. We understand the economics of time. How much time I need to earn what I want to earn. And for your practice management software, in order for this to be effective and to work the way we are describing, here's another thing you need to know about your practice management software. If you pull up your schedule, running down this side of your screen, in some practice management softwares, you may see an A or a D. If they have the AD combo, most of the time it's going to be D. How many of you, when you look to the left side of your screen, you can see a bunch of X's or slashes? How many of you see that? Okay, good. Then I'm going to speak to that. Do you know what those are there for?
No, I didn't.
Do you know that those are there for a reason? Here's what they're there for. X's, write this in your notes because you'll want to know this when you go back to time your procedures. This is a critical component of making this work. The X's that tend to, on the schedules that I see, the X's tend to show up all the way down the road. True or false?
True.
So what happens in your practice? The X's actually stand for doctor time. Now you will also notice on occasion, you'll see a little slash mark in there where the X used to be. Do you know what the slash stands for? Assistant time. See, it's almost like, how many of you didn't know that? Didn't know we didn't know that. It's been there the whole time. Didn't know we didn't know. So hopefully that is one little aha you can have this weekend. You can go back and start building out your procedures in your software, specifically for the assistant doctor time allocations for your most common procedures. Not where we're trying to get you to do his procedure time assessment, not where we're trying to get you to do his, but what yours actually are. Then you go in and plug it in, and when your team comes up front and they hand that treatment plan over to the front desk and they can see the X's and they know specifically assistant doctor time, creating this magnificently beautiful coordinated schedule where by 1 o'clock, before you even have lunch, you are already over goal. It can happen. We see it all the time. And it is probable in your practice just by implementing this. Okay?